United States, empire of influence, from independence to superpower. From a bold rebellion against a mighty empire to becoming the most powerful nation on earth. This is the story of how 13 colonies forged a republic, and that republic forged an empire of influence. Through civil war, civil rights, industrial booms, and global wars, the United States has not only shaped its own destiny, but the destiny of nations around the world. Today, its flag flies on the moon, its culture dominates the airwaves, and its military presence spans continents. But what forces created this empire? What does it stand for? And where does it go next? 1. Colonization and founding history. The story of the United States begins not with independence, but with colonization. In the early 17th century, waves of European settlers arrived on the eastern shores of North America. English colonies took root in places like Jamestown, Virginia in 1607, and later, Plymouth in 1620, seeking fortune, land, and religious freedom. But this new land was not empty. It was home to millions of Native Americans, diverse nations with deep-rooted cultures and complex societies. As colonists expanded, competition for land and resources led to centuries of displacement, disease, and warfare. By the mid-1700s, 13 British colonies had taken shape, each with its own local government and economy, yet all under the crown. Tensions grew over taxes, representation, and imperial control. Ideas of liberty, sparked by Enlightenment thought, ignited a new vision, not just protest, but independence. The American Revolution was more than a rebellion. It was a gamble against the world's most powerful empire. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence declared that all men are created equal, though many were still enslaved or excluded. It was the birth of a new experiment, a republic by the people and for the people. Victory came at great cost, but the new United States of America had emerged, a fragile union built on revolutionary ideals, regional interests, and compromises that would echo for centuries. 2. Slavery and the struggle for freedom. While the United States was founded on the promise of liberty, that promise was never equal. Long before independence, slavery had become a cornerstone of colonial life, especially in the South. Millions of Africans were torn from their homelands, trafficked across the Atlantic, and forced into brutal labor. The economy of the young republic thrived on their backs, building fortunes, institutions, and even the foundations of its political system. The Constitution itself compromised on the humanity of enslaved people, embedding division into the DNA of the nation. But resistance never ceased. In the shadows and in plain sight, enslaved people fought for their freedom. Leaders like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and Frederick Douglass gave voice to the voiceless. The abolitionist movement surged in the North, demanding an end to the injustice. The question of slavery would ultimately tear the country apart. In 1861, the United States was engulfed in civil war, a brutal reckoning over the soul of the nation. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation declared freedom for slaves in Confederate states. 2 years later, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery entirely. The war had ended, but the struggle had not. Freedom was met with violence and suppression. From Reconstruction to the rise of Jim Crow laws, a new system of racial control replaced the old. The fight for equality would pass through generations, becoming one of the longest and most defining battles in American history. 3. Civil rights and social change. Though slavery had ended, true equality remained a distant promise. In the shadow of emancipation rose a new era of struggle, one defined by segregation, disenfranchisement, and systemic racism. This was the age of Jim Crow. In 1896, the Supreme Court upheld separate but equal in Plessy versus Ferguson, cementing racial division into law. Across the South and beyond, Black Americans faced exclusion from schools, public spaces, and basic democratic rights. But a new generation rose to challenge that order. The civil rights movement, led by voices like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and thousands of unsung heroes, demanded justice with courage, nonviolence, and relentless determination. Through protests, sit-ins, and mass mobilizations, the movement forced the conscience of a nation. Landmark legislation followed. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 The Voting Rights Act of 1965, cracking the legal pillars of segregation. The victories were monumental, but the cost was great. Lives were lost, leaders were assassinated, and yet the spirit endured. Civil rights became the heartbeat of broader movements. For women, for LGBTQ+ communities, for immigrants, and for indigenous peoples. The fight for civil rights evolved, expanding from race to gender, sexuality, and beyond. America's conscience was awakening, reshaped by protest, art, law, and resistance. To this day, the legacy of civil rights remains a living movement, a mirror held up to the American dream, still asking the question, are we all truly equal? 4. Modern government and politics. Built on ideals of liberty and checks and balances, the United States political system is a living experiment, one that has evolved through revolution, reform, and relentless debate. The U.S. federal government rests on three co-equal branches. The President executes the law, Congress writes it, and the Supreme Court interprets it. Together, they form a delicate balance of power meant to serve the people and restrain tyranny. But politics in America is more than just law. It is story, spectacle, and struggle. From Lincoln's wartime presidency to Roosevelt's New Deal, from Watergate to the Obama era, each administration has shaped and reshaped the nation's course. In recent decades, partisan divisions have deepened. Red and blue, liberal and conservative, coastal and rural. Polarization now defines the modern political landscape. Social media accelerates outrage. Misinformation spreads faster than truth. Yet through conflict and controversy, the republic endures. Grassroots movements challenge power. Independent courts check authority. And every 4 years, the people vote, reaffirming the central promise of democracy, government by the people, for the people. Modern American politics may be turbulent, but its foundation remains resilient. The question, as always, is whether the system can adapt without forgetting the ideals it was built to protect. 5. Military power and global strategy. Military power has always been a big deal for the United States, acting like both a sword and a shield. From fighting for independence to getting involved in the Middle East, the U.S. military has defended its interests and made its mark around the world. It's made up of 6 branches: the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and the newest addition, Space Force. Each branch plays a unique role in a strategy focused on speed, reach, and strength. The Army is the oldest and largest branch, serving as the backbone of land warfare. With over 1 million active and reserve soldiers, it's got logistics, armor, and mobility covered on every continent. The Navy? They're the kings of the oceans, boasting 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and over 290 combat ships. Their job is to ensure free navigation and project power to distant shores. Then there's the Air Force, which takes things to a whole new level. They can deliver global reach in hours, not days, using stealth bombers and precision drone strikes. The Marine Corps is the rapid reaction team, always first in and last out. They can deploy quickly by air and sea to handle crises anywhere in the world. Don't forget the Coast Guard. They secure America's maritime borders, tackle drug smuggling and human trafficking, and protect ports and waterways from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Ocean. And of course, the U.S. Space Force operates in orbit, defending communication satellites and preparing for potential warfare in space. With over 750 installations in more than 80 countries, America's military presence is unmatched. This forward deployment strategy helps keep influence strong before conflicts even start, offering reassurance to allies and keeping rivals in check. From Cold War standoffs to counterterrorism operations, the U.S. military has been involved in nearly every global conflict over the last century. It mixes hard power with soft influence, combining military action with humanitarian aid. In times of disaster, the military steps up as a first responder, airlifting supplies and delivering medicine. But this power comes with its share of controversies. Critics often raise concerns about overreach, and the military-industrial complex, plus the emotional and economic toll of endless wars. The conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan have cost trillions and taken countless lives. Yet, the U.S. military is evolving. It's diving into AI, space warfare, cyber defense, and embracing diversity. The future isn't just about firepower, It's about speed, intelligence, and adaptability. Whether seen as a liberator or an occupier, America's military power remains a key pillar of its global influence. The U.S. military has fought on nearly every continent, from trenches to jungles. Victory in World War II solidified its role as a global superpower, and with the fall of the Soviet Union, the U.S. became the lone military hegemon. Its defense budget is larger than the next 10 nations combined. Through NATO, the U.S. anchors Western alliances and counters rising powers in the Indo-Pacific. But power invites scrutiny, and critics argue that military actions can sometimes fuel instability, raising tough questions about when and why America decides to fight. 6. Economy and industry. The United States boasts the world's largest economy, not just by size, but by innovation, influence, and integration. Its industries shaped the modern world, from Ford's Model T to Apple's iPhone, from Midwest cornfields to the skyscrapers of Manhattan. The U.S. economy has risen from boom to bust and back again. The Great Depression nearly broke it. World War II remade it. And by the 1950s, America emerged as the industrial heart of a newly globalized economy. Capitalism remains the engine, driven by consumer spending, corporate innovation, and financial markets that span the globe. Wall Street doesn't just move money, it moves governments, ideas, and entire industries. In the 21st century, industry has evolved. From agriculture and manufacturing to AI and quantum computing, the U.S. economy thrives on what's next. Silicon Valley alone has reshaped human interaction and artificial intelligence. Yet, challenges loom. Global competition, rising inequality, inflation, and shifting labor markets test the American model. Blue-collar jobs have vanished for some, while tech billionaires thrive. Others face widening gaps in wealth and opportunity. Still, the entrepreneurial spirit endures. From startups in garages to IPOs on the stock exchange, America's ability to reinvent itself remains unmatched. The U.S. isn't just a marketplace, it's an idea of economic freedom, risk-taking, and possibility. Whether it's denim jeans or Hollywood films, microchips or agricultural exports, the world doesn't just buy American, it's shaped by it. 7. Culture and society. To understand America is to explore the soul of a nation that constantly reinvents itself through culture. A land where identities clash and harmonize, where traditions collide with trends, and where voices, once silenced, now shape the global conversation. From the spirituals of enslaved Africans to the roaring rhythms of rock and roll, from the lyrical power of hip-hop to the cinematic grandeur of Hollywood, America's cultural exports have become the soundtrack and screen of the modern world. Hollywood isn't just an industry. It's a mythology machine, crafting the image of America as both dream and drama, projected across every continent. Education and knowledge shape American ideals. The U.S. hosts many of the world's top universities and continues to draw minds from across the globe, even as debates rage over access, curriculum, and equity. At its core, the United States is a social experiment, built on diversity, tested by division. From women's suffrage to civil rights, from marriage equality to immigration reform, the fight to expand freedom never ends. This is a nation of immigrants, of native roots, African legacies, Latin rhythms, Asian innovation, and European frameworks. It's a tapestry constantly rewoven with each new wave of arrivals. Religious freedom and secularism coexist, shaping a society both deeply faithful and profoundly skeptical. A paradox at the heart of the American character. Yet culture also divides. Race, gender, politics, religion, these lines are drawn and redrawn with every generation. In a country where free speech is sacred, conflict is inevitable. So is progress. For all its contradictions, America's culture is one of resilience, reinvention, and relentless energy. It questions everything, even itself, and still finds the will to move forward. 8. Geography and travel appeal. Spanning over 9.8 million square kilometers, the United States is not just one nation, but many landscapes, many cultures, and many stories stitched into a single flag. From arid deserts to alpine tundra, sprawling farmland to island paradises, the geography of America is as vast as its ambitions. In the Northeast, history and modernity collide. Cobblestone streets of Boston, the political halls of Washington, D.C., and the towering skyline of New York City offer travelers everything from colonial tales to Wall Street energy. Landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Smithsonian Museums, and Times Square anchor this region in the global imagination. The South is where tradition, soul, and resilience meet. Walk the jazz-filled streets of New Orleans, explore civil rights history in Atlanta, or stroll the antebellum architecture of Charleston. From the beaches of the Outer Banks to the rolling hills of Tennessee, this region tells America's story in blues, barbecue, and bold hospitality. In the Midwest, the heartbeat of America lies in its fields and factories. Known as America's breadbasket, states like Iowa, Ohio, and Illinois offer golden wheat fields, the cultural capital of Chicago, and warm, small-town charm. Route 66 begins here, an invitation to cross the continent. The West is where nature writes in bold strokes. The towering peaks of the Rockies, the cinematic deserts of Arizona, and the geothermal wonders of Yellowstone define the region. In California, surf meets Silicon Valley, and wine country blends with redwood forests. Further north, the Pacific Northwest merges misty coastlines with urban green innovation. Seattle and Portland pulse with creativity, while Olympic National Park and Mount Rainier showcase untouched wilderness. In non-contiguous states, America takes on different faces. Alaska offers glacial frontiers, northern lights, and wildlife expeditions that feel untouched by time. Hawaii, born of fire and ocean, invites visitors into a Polynesian paradise of volcanoes, coral reefs, and the spirit of aloha. Getting around is a journey in itself. With over 13,000 airports, one of the world's most expansive highway networks, and scenic rail routes like Amtrak's California Zephyr, travel here is built for exploration. For travelers, America offers both checklist icons and hidden gems. National parks like Zion, Grand Teton, and Acadia offer hiking, wildlife, and stargazing. Cities like Austin, Savannah, and Santa Fe pulse with local flavor, art scenes, and regional identity. And beyond the sights, the U.S. is a festival of cultures. Experience a powwow in Montana, a 4th of July celebration in Boston, a Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, or Chinese New Year in San Francisco. Geographically and culturally, the United States is a mosaic, a canvas of contradictions and possibilities. It's a country built for movement, for road trips, rail journeys, and sky-high flights. But to understand it, you must wander off the map. Final reflection. The United States is more than a country. It's an ever-evolving idea. A bold experiment born in rebellion, refined through war, scarred by slavery, and elevated by dreams that stretched beyond borders and generations. It is a nation of extremes, of soaring skyscrapers and silent deserts, of roaring innovation and quiet resilience. From the crowded alleys of Chinatown to the serenity of the Appalachian Trail, every corner tells a story of reinvention. The American journey is not a straight road. It bends, it breaks, and it rebuilds. It has been shaped by the hopes of immigrants, the struggles of freedom fighters, and the brilliance of visionaries who dared to ask, what if? The power of the United States lies not just in its military or economy, but in its people, rebels, reformers, pioneers, and peacemakers, each generation rising to meet new challenges with grit and imagination. This empire of influence wasn't forged only through force, but through ideas, media, markets, and movements. And its greatest impact may yet lie ahead, not in what it builds, but in what it inspires. As this vast story unfolds, one thing remains clear. The United States is still writing history, every day, every voice, every choice. If you've enjoyed this journey across America's complex past and powerful present, there's more to discover. Subscribe to the Atlas Vault for deep dives into the untold stories of our world's most fascinating nations, past, present, and future. Hit that bell, because history is far from over.